The stars stretched endlessly in the dark sky, shining like countless small lamps across the universe. Ships from the human fleet and vessels of the alien kingdom of Veora floated side by side. In cautious formation, it was the first time in history that such a sight had been seen. For many years, humans and Varans had stood on opposite sides, wary of each other, and often close to war. Now, with the signing of a fragile peace treaty, both sides had agreed to work together, even if trust had not yet grown. On one of the largest ships, a gathering was held to mark the beginning of their alliance. Human commanders stood with their soldiers, watching carefully, while Veoran nobles in elegant robes stood proudly with calm expressions. At the center of it all was Princess Leora, the daughter of the Veoran ruler. She was not like the other nobles. While others spoke boldly and with sharp voices, Leora was quiet and gentle. Her long silver hair shimmered faintly in the ship's lights, and her calm eyes carried both wisdom and a hidden sadness. Princess Leora had been chosen to represent her people in this new cooperation. Some believed her gentle heart made her weak, but others thought it was her strength. She had agreed to live among humans for a time, to learn their ways and ensure that peace would not be broken. It was a heavy responsibility for someone so reserved, but she carried it with silent dignity. Standing near the front of the human group was Aaron, a soldier who had already seen many battles. He was not the loudest nor the most decorated among his peers, but he carried himself with discipline and quiet strength. His dark eyes were steady, and his posture showed the patience of one who knew when to act and when to hold back. His commanders respected him for his loyalty and calm nature, and so he had been chosen to serve as one of the escorts for the alien princess. When the introductions began, Aaron found himself studying the princess carefully. She did not smile much, nor did she try to impress anyone with grand gestures. Instead, she spoke softly, each word chosen with care, her voice steady like a calm stream. Aaron was surprised. He had expected arrogance, or at least cold distance. But what he saw was someone reserved yet sincere. Leora also noticed him. Among the many humans present, Aaron stood out for his quiet focus. Unlike others who glanced at her with suspicion or with forced courtesy, his gaze was respectful, not filled with pride or fear. She lowered her eyes quickly, not wishing anyone to notice her interest. But a small thought stayed in her mind. Perhaps humans were not as she had been told. The ceremony ended, and the two groups parted to their assigned quarters. The humans still whispered among themselves. Some doubted the alliance would last, while others believed it was a trap. Aaron, however, remained silent, thinking only of his duty. His path was clear: protect the princess, no matter what. Later that night, when the ship grew quieter, Leora walked to the observation deck alone. The large glass walls revealed the endless beauty of space. She placed her hands together and gazed at the stars, her thoughts heavy. Was peace truly possible? Would humans and her people learn to trust, or would this effort end in more conflict? A sound behind her made her turn. Aaron was standing near the entrance, his armor shining faintly. Under the dim lights, he did not approach too close, but spoke with steady calm. "Princess, it may not be safe for you to be alone. I was ordered to watch over you." Leora looked at him, her expression unreadable, then returned her gaze to the stars. "Do you always follow orders without question, soldier?" she asked. Softly, Aaron thought for a moment before answering. "I follow orders. But sometimes it is not only about orders. Sometimes it is about what feels right." His words surprised her. She turned her head slightly, studying him again. There was honesty in his voice, without pride or fear. She nodded gently, not saying more, but in her heart, she felt something shift. Perhaps this human was different. They stood together in silence, neither speaking further. Yet the silence was not heavy. It was calm, almost peaceful. For the first time since the treaty was signed, Leora felt less alone. Aaron, too, felt that something unspoken had passed between them, though he could not yet name it. When she finally returned to her quarters, Aaron remained on watch. He did not understand why he felt the need to guard her more carefully than others, but he did. And Leora, lying in her chamber, thought of the soldier who had spoken to her with quiet truth. Thus began the fragile story of a princess and a soldier brought together by duty, but slowly drawn by something deeper. Neither of them spoke of it yet, but both sensed that the future would not be decided only by treaties or councils. It would also be shaped by small choices, hidden feelings, and the courage to trust across the divide of two worlds. The days that followed were uneasy for both humans and Varens, though the treaty was signed. Trust did not come easily. On the human side, soldiers whispered doubts about the aliens. Some thought the Varens were only pretending to seek peace, while planning a secret strike. Others believed the alliance would collapse at the first sign of trouble. The Varens, on the other hand, kept their distance from the humans, speaking only when necessary and often with guarded expressions. Princess Leora felt the weight of these doubts more than anyone. She was watched by her own council, who feared she might grow too close to the humans. At the same time, she sensed the mistrust of the human crew whenever she walked through the ship's halls. Her gentle nature made her long for understanding, yet her position demanded restraint. She knew her people expected her to stay cold and cautious, never giving her heart away. Aaron, meanwhile, kept to his duty as her escort. He followed her steps, remained alert during meetings, and stood near her during gatherings. He noticed the way humans looked at the princess with suspicion and how Vaoran nobles looked at him with quiet disdain. It was as if both sides silently agreed on one thing, that humans and aliens could never truly stand as equals. But Aaron did not allow those thoughts to cloud his mind. He had seen enough war to know that suspicion only built more walls. For him, what mattered most was what stood before his eyes, not the rumors or fears. And before his eyes, he saw a princess who carried herself with grace, who spoke carefully, never raising her voice, yet whose words often calmed heated arguments between the two groups. One evening, during a shared meal in the Grand Hall, Aaron stood watch at the side while Princess Leora sat among her council and several human officers. The air was thick with silence, broken only by the sound of utensils. The humans spoke little, and the Varens even less, yet when one of the human officers remarked coldly that the Vaoran fleet was more a burden than an ally, tension rose. Leora lifted her calm gaze. "Every alliance begins with doubt," she said softly, her voice clear but not harsh. "But if doubt rules us, then we have not signed peace, only an agreement of paper." The hall grew quiet again. No one dared to answer her words, for they carried a quiet truth. Aaron, standing silently, felt a small respect stir in his chest. She was gentle, but not weak. She could speak in ways that silenced conflict without anger. Later that night, Leora walked once more to the observation deck. She often came there to breathe away the weight of duty. To her surprise, Aaron was already there, standing alone by the glass, watching the distant stars. "You are here again, soldier," she said, her voice almost like a whisper. Aaron straightened and turned. "I could ask the same of you, princess." She stepped closer, her long robes brushing softly against the metal floor. For a moment, she stood beside him, both gazing at the endless expanse of stars. The silence between them was not heavy, but filled with unspoken thoughts. "Do your people trust this peace?" she asked quietly. Aaron took a slow breath. "Some do. Many do not. To be honest, even among humans, there are those who think the treaty will fail. But I believe peace is worth trying for. Too many lives have been lost." His words carried no grand speech, only simple honesty. Leora lowered her eyes slightly. "My people say the same. But still they warn me not to grow close to humans. They fear that trust will blind us. They fear that kindness will weaken us." Aaron looked at her, studying her calm face. He could see the conflict behind her composed expression. "Kindness is not weakness," he said at last. "It takes more strength to trust than to fight. Anyone can pick up a weapon, but few can lay it down and believe in another." Her eyes widened slightly at his words. As though he had touched something hidden deep within her heart, she turned back to the stars, afraid that he might see too much in her gaze. For so long, she had carried her feelings in silence, but now they stirred, stronger than before. From that night on, small moments began to pass between them. When she moved through the halls, her eyes would sometimes meet his, and he would give a small nod of reassurance. When she joined strategy meetings, he would stand near, listening in silence, his presence steady like a shield. And sometimes, when the burdens of doubt pressed too hard, she would find him quietly waiting near the observation deck, where they could share a few words without the weight of watchful eyes. But whispers grew louder. Some of her counselors warned her more strongly. "Princess, do not let the humans charm you. They are skilled in words, but their hearts remain unknown. Keep distance, for the safety of our people." At the same time, Aaron heard from his fellow soldiers, "Watch yourself. The aliens may seem calm, but they're dangerous. Don't forget what they did before the treaty." Both Leora and Aaron kept silent to these warnings, hiding what they truly thought. Yet inside, both felt the same truth. A bond was slowly forming. A bond not of politics or treaties, but of trust built in small moments, away from the eyes of others. The shadows of doubt still surrounded them, but in the quiet corners of the ship, the gentle princess and the steady soldier found something that gave them hope. Neither of them spoke of it yet, but both knew that this connection, however fragile, was becoming something neither side could have predicted. The peace mission had been moving forward slowly. Meetings were held, plans were made, and both sides tried to adjust to each other's presence. Yet the atmosphere remained fragile, like glass that could break with a single touch. One morning, the convoy of ships began a joint patrol through a quiet region of space. The patrol was meant to be simple, a symbol of cooperation between the humans and the Varens. On board the flagship, Princess Leora stood with her council, watching the movement of the fleets across the display screens. Aaron stood nearby, always alert, his eyes scanning the room and the guards. At first, everything seemed calm. The stars outside shone steadily, and the ships moved in careful formation. Then, without warning, alarms echoed across the deck. Red lights flashed as the ship's sensors picked up incoming signals. Dozens of unidentified ships had appeared from the dark void, rushing toward the convoy with clear intent. "Raiders," one of the human officers shouted. The air filled with tension. The raiders were known across the galaxy for attacking vulnerable fleets, taking what they could, and destroying the rest. For them, a convoy of humans and Varens working together was the perfect target. The ship shook violently as the first wave of fire hit the shields. Leora gripped the edge of a table to steady herself. Her council shouted orders. They're calm. Masks breaking as fear grew. Aaron immediately stepped in front of her, his body tense, his eyes sharp. "Stay behind me, Princess," he said firmly. The Vaoran guards moved in, but the chaos made their lines break. Another explosion rattled the ship, forcing everyone to stumble. Leora's heart raced as the reality of danger pressed upon her. She had always spoken of peace, of building trust, but now she was faced with the harsh truth of war once again. Aaron pulled her away from the main hall as smoke began to spread. "This way," he urged, guiding her toward the secured passageways. His movements were quick but steady, never letting panic take over. Leora followed, her robes trailing behind her, her breath unsteady. As they moved, another blast rocked the ship, and part of the quarter collapsed behind them. Dust and sparks filled the air. Leora coughed, her steps faltering, but Aaron caught her arm and held her upright. For a brief moment, she looked into his eyes and saw not fear but determination. "You are not safe here," he said. "We need to reach the lower deck where the shields are strongest." They hurried through narrow halls, the sounds of battle echoing around them. Through small windows, Leora caught glimpses of the fight outside. Human ships and Vaoran vessels fought side by side, struggling against the swarm of raiders. Bright trails of fire crossed the stars, and explosions lit the darkness like storms. Finally, they reached a reinforced chamber. Aaron checked the area quickly, then guided her inside. The princess sank into a chair, her hands trembling slightly. Though her face remained composed, she lifted her gaze to him, her voice soft but steady. "You risk much to protect me," she said. Aaron shook his head. "It is my duty. I would do the same for any life in my care." But Leora's heart knew there was more than duty in his actions. The way he had shielded her, the way his hand never let her stumble, showed something deeper. She lowered her eyes, afraid her thoughts might be too easily seen. The battle outside raged on. Human and Veoran crews worked together, their voices loud across the communication lines. For the first time since the treaty was signed, they were not arguing or doubting each other. They were fighting side by side against a common enemy. Hours seemed to pass like minutes. Finally, the noise of weapons began to fade. Reports came through that the raiders were retreating, their losses too great to continue. Relief spread across the ship, though it was mixed with exhaustion and grief for those who had fallen. When the danger was gone, the council entered the chamber to find the princess safe. They praised the strength of the shields and the skill of their fighters. But Leora's eyes rested on Aaron in the darkest hour. It had been him who stood like a wall before her, never faltering, never doubting. That night, after the ship was repaired and the wounded were cared for, Leora found herself once more at the observation deck. The stars looked different now, brighter, but also harsher, as if they had witnessed the storm. She heard footsteps and turned to see Aaron approaching. He stopped a respectful distance away. "You should rest, princess," he said. "I cannot rest," she answered softly. "Today reminded me of how fragile peace is, but also how strong it can be when we stand together." She looked at him with quiet eyes. "You showed me that strength, Aaron. You did not hesitate. For a moment, he said nothing, only looked back at her. Then, in his calm voice, he replied, 'It was not only duty, princess. Sometimes, protecting peace means protecting the one who carries it.'" Her heart trembled at his words, though she did not let it show. She turned back to the stars, hiding the warmth rising inside her. The threat of the raiders had passed, but something else had begun to awaken, a feeling too strong to remain hidden forever. The attack by the raiders left deep marks on both fleets. Some ships were damaged. Some soldiers were injured, and the memory of fire in the sky stayed with everyone. But in that storm of danger, humans and Varans had fought together as one. The treaty was still new, yet the shared battle had planted a seed of trust stronger than any signed paper. Princess Leora moved through the ship with quiet dignity, offering calm words to both her council and the human officers. Her voice, soft yet steady, brought a rare comfort. But in her heart, she carried a memory she could not share with anyone. The memory of Aaron pulling her from collapsing halls, his steady hands guiding her through smoke and fire. Aaron returned to his duties, as if nothing had changed. He stood guard during meetings, walked the halls with careful steps, and watched over the princess from a respectful distance. Yet something had indeed changed. He could not forget how her eyes had met his in the midst of chaos, how her trust in him had been silent but complete. Their bond grew not in spoken promises, but in small and spoken moments. When Leora walked into a meeting room, her eyes often sought him first. When he stood watch in the corridors, she sometimes slowed her steps as if to share a brief glance before continuing. Neither said a word about it, but the silence between them carried meaning. One evening, after a long day of tense discussions between the two councils, Leora returned to the observation deck. She thought the place might be empty, but once again, Aaron was already there. He seemed to find comfort in the stars, just as she did. "You are here often," she said softly. He turned to her with a small nod. "The stars remind me that the universe is bigger than our wars, bigger than our doubts." Leora stepped closer, her silver hair catching the light. "I come here for the same reason. The stars remind me that peace is possible, even if the path feels endless." They stood side by side in silence, watching the vast sky. For a while, there was no need for words. The quiet presence of the other was enough. Days passed, and the missions continued. The fleets moved together, patrolling nearby sectors and ensuring raiders would not return. Leora joined the humans in their strategy rooms, learning about their ways of planning and battle. In turn, She shared knowledge of Vaoran technology, teaching humans how to read energy signals the way her people did. It was a slow exchange, yet it built a bridge. Aaron often stood near during these exchanges, silent but attentive, when the princess explained something in her calm tone. He listened carefully, as though her words mattered more than the plans themselves, and when human officers grew frustrated or doubtful, his quiet nods helped steady the mood. One day, after hours of planning, Leora grew weary. She stepped out of the chamber, her shoulders heavy from the constant tension. Aaron followed a few steps behind, keeping his duty. She paused in a hallway where no one else was present. "Why do you always stay so close, even when danger has passed?" she asked softly, turning to face him. Aaron met her gaze with calm eyes. "Because danger is never truly gone, princess. It hides, waiting for moments of weakness. My place is to make sure you are never alone in such moments." Her heart stirred at his words. She lowered her eyes quickly, afraid her feelings would show too easily. "You speak as if my safety is more important than your own," she whispered. "It is." He answered simply. The silence that followed was deep, filled with unspoken emotion. Leora wanted to say more, to tell him what grew inside her heart, but fear held her back. She was a princess, bound by duty, watched by her people. A confession could bring scandal, or worse, divide the fragile peace. So she said nothing, keeping her feelings hidden behind calm eyes. Aaron, too, remained silent. He felt the pull between them, but he was a soldier. His path was to serve, not to reach beyond his place. And yet, in the quiet of his thoughts, he admitted to himself that the bond he felt with her was unlike anything he had known before. In the following days, whispers grew among both groups. Humans noticed the way the princess often stood near Aaron, while Vaorans noticed how his eyes followed her movements. The whispers carried doubt, suspicion, and sometimes warning. Yet neither Leora nor Aaron spoke of it, choosing instead to continue their roles as if nothing unusual had formed. One night, as the ship drifted in calm space, Leora stood once again before the stars. Aaron approached quietly and stopped beside her. They said nothing, but their silence was different now. It was not empty. It was full of trust, of respect, and of feelings that words dared not carry. For Leora, his presence was a shield not just for her body but for her heart. For Aaron, her calm gaze was a light that made duty feel less heavy. Together, without confessing, they had formed a silent bond. It was a bond hidden from others, unspoken yet unbreakable. And though neither knew what the future held, both understood that this quiet connection was becoming the strongest part of their fragile peace. The days after the raider attack brought new tensions. Though humans and Vaorans had fought side by side, the old mistrust had not vanished. Rumors began to spread, carried by whispers in the halls and murmurs in the council chambers. Some said the raiders had known too much about the convoy's path. Others suggested that one side had leaked the information. Suspicion slowly grew like a shadow, darkening the fragile alliance. Princess Leora heard the whispers among her own council. They spoke in low voices when they thought she could not hear. "The humans must have revealed our route," one said bitterly. "Or perhaps they allowed the raiders to attack, to test our strength," another suggested. Leora's gentle heart tightened at their words. She wanted to believe in the peace they were building, but the fear of betrayal was strong among her people. She stood silent, not giving voice to her thoughts, but inside she felt a storm rising. Aaron, too, heard the doubts among his fellow soldiers. Some muttered that the aliens had staged the attack to make humans look weak. Others said the princess herself might know more than she admitted. Aaron listened but did not join their voices. He had been there. He had seen her fear, her courage, and her sincerity. To him, she was no deceiver. But doubt has a way of spreading even when hearts resist it. The tension reached a breaking point when fragments of data were discovered in the ship's systems. The fragments suggested that someone had shared information about the convoy's route before the attack. The source was unclear, but suspicion quickly turned toward the humans, as the data seemed to pass through their channels. In the Great Hall, the Vaoran Council demanded answers. Leora stood at their side, her calm face hiding her inner conflict. Human officers denied the accusations, but their voices grew sharp. The fragile bridge between the two groups shook dangerously. Then one council member spoke, his voice heavy. With judgment, the soldier Aaron was closest to the princess during the attack. He had access to secure corridors and communication lines. Perhaps it was he who betrayed us. The words struck like a blade. Leora's eyes widened, and for a moment she almost broke her calm mask. Aaron, standing near, did not flinch. His expression remained steady, his voice firm. I did not betray the alliance, he said simply, but the council pressed on. You expect us to believe your word alone? You were in places no other human was allowed. You walked beside our princess. Perhaps you gained her trust only to use it against us. Leora's heart raced. She wanted to speak, to defend him, but her voice caught in her throat, round her. The hall was filled with sharp arguments, humans and Varens throwing words. Like weapons, Aaron stood in silence, his calm presence refusing to bend. Finally, the human commander spoke. If one of our soldiers is accused, we will take responsibility, but we stand by Aaron's honor. Still, suspicion hung heavy. The council declared that until the truth was found, Aaron would be restricted, his movements watched closely. To many, it seemed like a punishment, a quiet exile within the ship. That evening, Leora found him standing once more on the observation deck. The stars shone brightly beyond the glass, but his posture was different now, still tall, still steady, but with a quiet weight pressing on him. You should not be here, she said softly. They will only grow more suspicious if they see us together. Aaron looked at her, his eyes calm as ever. I am not here to clear my name. I am here because I chose to protect you. If suspicion is the price of that choice, then I accept it. Her heart trembled at his words. She stepped closer, her voice barely more than a whisper. You should not bear this alone. I know you are not guilty. I saw your loyalty with my own eyes. He gave a faint shake of his head. Your words mean more to me than the judgment of councils. That is enough. But to Leora, it was not enough. She felt the weight of silence pressing down on her. For so long, she had hidden her feelings, bound by duty and fear. Yet now, as she watched the man who had saved her life stand accused, she realized that her silence was no longer strength, it was a chain holding her back. That night, she lay awake, her thoughts restless. She remembered the way he had shielded her during the attack, the honesty in his eyes when he spoke of peace, the steady presence that had become her comfort. She knew her council would never believe him without proof, but she also knew that proof was not what mattered most. What mattered was trust, and trust meant she could no longer remain silent. The next day, when the council gathered once more to decide Aaron's fate, Leora stood at the center of the hall. Her voice, gentle but clear, rose above the arguments. You doubt him, she said, her eyes sweeping across the council. But I do not. I have seen his loyalty, his courage, and his truth. If you accuse him, then you must accuse me as well, for I trust him with my life. The hall fell silent. No one expected the reserved princess to speak with such force. Her words carried not only defense but something deeper, something that shook both humans and Varens alike. Aaron stood quietly behind her, his face steady. But in his heart, he felt the weight of her courage. She had chosen to stand for him, even against her own people. It was the beginning of a change neither council could ignore. The great hall was quiet as both human and Vaoran leaders gathered once again. The recent accusations had left tension in the air, and every eye seemed to watch the princess closely. Leora's heart beat steadily, though she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She had prepared herself. Today, she would speak not as a princess bound by caution, but as someone who could no longer hide her truth. Aaron stood nearby, his posture calm, yet the faintest flicker of uncertainty passed through his eyes. He had faced danger many times before, but standing accused by the council had been different. He had accepted their judgment quietly, believing that trust alone was not enough to prove him. And yet, he had also known that Leora would never abandon him if she believed in his loyalty. Princess Leora, the head of the council, began. his voice cautious. The accusations have caused concern. Your presence here may clarify our doubts. Leora stepped forward, lifting her chin. Her silver hair fell softly around her shoulders, and her calm gaze swept across the gathered leaders. She spoke slowly, each word measured and deliberate. I have remained silent for too long, she began. I have watched suspicion grow. I have listened to doubt, and I have seen loyalty questioned without cause. Today, I will speak the truth. Her eyes shifted to Aaron for a moment. The world seemed to narrow around him and her. She did not reach for his hand, but her gaze held him in a way words could not describe. This soldier, she continued, is one of the most honorable beings I have ever known. In the attack on our convoy, he did not hesitate to protect me, even when the halls collapsed and fire filled the air. He risked himself for the safety of others. I watched him, and I can say without doubt that he is loyal, brave, and true. Murmurs ran through the hall. Some humans glanced at each other, relieved, while some Varens frowned, unsure of how to respond to the princess's firm declaration. Leora's voice grew softer, almost as if she were speaking only to Aaron. And not only is he loyal, but he has shown me something that cannot be measured in orders or ranks. He has shown me care, patience, and courage beyond duty. He has reminded me that trust is more than rules. It is a choice, and it is rare. She paused, taking a steady breath. Her heart pounded, but she felt a new strength rising within her. She could no longer hide what had grown quietly in her heart. I trust him, she said clearly. I trust him with my life, with my honor, and with my feelings. Gasps spread across the hall. Her council stared at her, shocked that the reserved princess had confessed not only trust but something deeper. Humans looked at each other with surprise, understanding now why the soldier's calm strength had seemed so extraordinary. Aaron felt his chest tighten. He had never expected this, yet he had silently hoped for it. He stepped forward slightly, bowing respectfully before her. Princess, he said, his voice steady, I'm honored by your words. I have only acted as any soldier should, but if my actions have earned your trust, then I accept it with my life. Leora's eyes softened, her heart warming at his words. It is more than trust, Aaron. It is what I have kept hidden for too long. I care for you more than I should admit, yet I cannot hide it any longer. The hall grew silent. The leaders of both sides waited, unsure how to respond. Leora did not care. Her words had been spoken, and the weight lifted from her heart. She had chosen courage, and in doing so, she had taken control of her own story. Aaron's gaze met hers fully. His voice was quiet, but firm. Princess Leora, I care for you as well. I have felt this since our first days together, though I could not speak it today. Your words have given me courage to show what my heart has long known. For the first time, the tension between humans and Varens seemed to fade, replaced by the truth of connection. It was a quiet yet powerful moment to hearts aligned in honesty, bravery, and mutual respect. The council, slowly realizing the sincerity of the princess, began to nod. Their questions of loyalty seemed smaller now, insignificant compared to the strength of character displayed. The humans present felt relief and quiet pride, while even the Vaorn nobles could see that Leora's courage had bridged not only trust but hope. That evening, after the council adjourned, Leora walked to the observation deck once again. The stars glimmered brightly, calm and infinite. Aaron joined her, walking slowly, careful not to speak too soon. When he reached her side, she turned and smiled softly. It is done, she said, her voice gentle. I no longer hide my feelings, nor my trust. The truth is ours to share, and nothing can take that from us. Aaron nodded, a small smile forming. And I will protect that truth, princess, with all that I am. You have my loyalty, my care, and my heart. For a moment, the two of them stood together, watching the endless stars. Neither needed to speak further. Their confession had not only changed the course of their lives, but had strengthened the fragile bond between humans and Varens. Peace now had a new foundation, not only treaties and plans, but trust, courage, and hearts willing to believe in each other. And for the First time in a long time, both felt that hope had returned, shining brighter than any star in the vast universe. The morning sun reflected softly on the hulls of the ships as the human and Vaoran fleets prepared for another day of patrol. The attack by the raiders had become a memory, but its lessons remained. Trust, once fragile, now felt stronger, and at the heart of that trust were Princess Leora and the human soldier Aaron, whose courage and honesty had begun to bridge the gap between two very different worlds. The princess moved through the halls of her ship, her steps light and steady. There was a calm confidence in her gaze now that had not been there before. She had spoken her heart, and in doing so, had shown not only her people, but also the humans that true courage was not only in battle, but also in truth. Aaron walked beside her, careful to match her pace. Though their bond was now known to some, they did not need words to understand each other. A glance, a quiet nod, or the soft way their eyes met was enough to speak volumes. Both knew that the trust they had nurtured quietly was now the foundation for something greater. Peace that could last. The councils of both sides had begun to change their approach. Human officers now worked more closely with Vaoran leaders, sharing strategies and ideas without the heavy tension that had once filled the halls. Leora's gentle but steady influence had created a new atmosphere, one where collaboration was possible. One afternoon, the princess and Aaron found themselves walking through the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, sparkling with the promise of distant worlds. The calm of space reflected the calm they had found within themselves. "You have changed more than you know," Aaron said quietly, breaking the comfortable silence. Leora looked at him with a soft smile. "And you have reminded me that even the smallest acts of courage can make the greatest difference. You taught me that trust can survive even the darkest moments." He nodded. "It was not just me. You showed courage too. You spoke your truth when it mattered most. That is why we stand here today stronger, together." For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet was comfortable, filled with understanding. Then, Leora reached out slightly, brushing her hand against his. It was a small gesture, yet it carried all the meaning they had kept hidden for so long. The fleets continued their patrols, and in the days that followed, the peace began to grow in small, tangible ways. Humans and Vaoran shared knowledge of technology and strategy. Training sessions brought soldiers together, and slowly, laughter began to replace whispers of doubt. The memory of fear faded, replaced by hope. Leora and Aaron often found themselves in moments away from the eyes of others, learning about each other in simple ways. They shared stories of their lives, their hopes, and the dreams they had once thought impossible. These quiet moments built a bond stronger than words, deeper than the walls of their ships, and more enduring than the tension that had once divided them. One evening, the princess stood before her council, addressing them with calm authority. "Peace is not just an agreement or a strategy. It is built in the actions we take every day. We have the chance to show our people and the humans that trust can grow when hearts are brave and honest." Her words were met with quiet nods. Even the most skeptical Vaoran leaders could see the truth in them. The princess had not only defended a soldier, she had shown what true leadership could be. Meanwhile, Aaron trained with human and Vaoran soldiers together, guiding them, protecting them, and sharing lessons he had learned in both battle and trust. His presence among the troops became a symbol not only of courage, but also of the strength of cooperation. The days turned into weeks, and the bond between the two worlds grew stronger. Ships moved in coordinated formations, raiders were less daring, and communication between humans and Vaorans became routine. The fragile alliance was no longer fragile. It had become a partnership rooted in honesty, respect, and the courage to believe in each other. And throughout it all, Leora and Aaron walked their quiet path together. The gentle princess and the steady soldier had discovered a connection that neither war nor politics could break. They shared laughter, quiet conversations under the stars, and moments of trust that spoke louder than any speech died at last. They stood side by side on the observation deck, looking out over the endless expanse of space. The stars seemed brighter, reflecting the hope they had nurtured between their peoples and within their hearts. Leora placed her hand gently on Aaron's arm, and he gave a small, steady nod. "The future feels different," Leora said softly. "Yes?" Aaron replied, his voice calm. "It feels like we are finally ready to face it together." The fleets continued their journey, moving as one through the quiet cosmos. The story of doubt, fear, and conflict had given way to a story of courage, trust, and love. Humanity had once again shown its unique power to inspire hope, and in doing so, a gentle alien princess and a human soldier had found a bond that could shape not only their lives, but the future of two worlds. As the stars stretched endlessly above them, Leora and Aaron stood together, their hands brushing lightly, hearts aligned. In the dawn of a new era shining brighter than any star in the galaxy,